there is a story, which like a forgotten seed in the earth, has waited in the dark, the time established by God to germinate and bear fruit in the midst of the storm. A story that crosses the centuries, hidden from the eyes of the world. It is the story of Sor Patrocinio, also known as the Nun of the Wounds, and of her extraordinary vision, which contains within itself a prophecy destined precisely for our time. A prophecy which incredibly concerns our new Pope Leo XIV. How is it possible that a nun who lived almost 200 years ago could have foreseen the events of our days? Stay with us, because it will amaze you to learn it. And you will also discover an important indication to carry out our duty as Christians in this crucial moment of history. If these themes are close to your heart, help us spread them. A like can do a lot, as well as your subscription to the channel. Thank you from the heart. Let's take a step back to the turbulent Spain of the early 19th century. Little Maria de los Dolores came to light in 1811 in the midst of the Napoleonic conflict. Her birth was already marked by the supernatural. Abandoned by her mother to the snow and frost, she was miraculously saved by her father, who, following a mysterious voice, found her still alive. This extraordinary event was just the beginning of an uncommon existence. As a child, the little girl had a mystical encounter with the Virgin Mary, who spiritually adopted her and predicted a consecrated life for her. Despite family difficulties and the early loss of her father, Maria cultivated this inner calling. Growing in beauty and courted by illustrious suitors, she even refused a prestigious union to follow her religious vocation, entering the congregation of the Franciscan Conceptionist. Her spiritual path immediately proved extraordinary. During the novitiate, unusual mystical manifestations began. Stigmata appeared on her body, followed by daily ecstasies, visions, and celestial apparitions. These experiences were accompanied by intense spiritual trials, including torments that she attributed to malignant forces. An extraordinary and crucial event marked her life on August 13, 1831. In the convent of Caballero de Gracia in Madrid, during afternoon prayer, Sister Patrocinio had a vision in which the Virgin Mary and Saint Michael the Archangel appeared to her. According to what Sister Patrocinio reported to her sisters and spiritual directors, Saint Michael materially handed her a small sacred image. It was not a purely interior or symbolic vision, but a tangible gift. The Virgin Mary herself spoke to the religious, explaining that that image would bear the title of Our Lady of Oblivion, Triumph, and Mercies. The Virgin explained to her the profound meaning of this tripartite title. Oblivion represented the painful reality of humanity, which had forgotten God and the Virgin Mary herself. Triumph announced the certainty of the final victory of good, despite apparent temporary defeats. Mercies expressed the boundless love that would always prevail over judgment in hearts open to conversion. The world has forgotten her, but today we want to shout the opposite. Let's write it with faith in the comments. We have not forgotten you, Mother. The testimonies of the time report an extraordinary fact. At the end of the ecstasy, the sacred image was found physically in the hands of Sor Patrocinio. The sisters present could see that the small effigy of the Virgin Mary with the child Jesus in her arms had not been in that room before the mystical experience. Its inexplicable origin was immediately recognized as a sign of its miraculous nature. During this apparition, the Virgin made specific promises linked to the veneration of this image. Those who would have honored it with sincere devotion would have received special protection in times of tribulation of the Church. The Virgin Mary also promised graces of conversion even at the point of death for those who would have turned to her under this title. She promised consolation in moments of pain and help against the temptations of the evil one. This miraculous image is currently in the convent of the Franciscan Conceptionist in Guadalajara, Spain, where Sister Patrocinio spent the last years of her life. But it is another mystical episode even more significant that is of decisive importance for our story. On the evening of the feast of St. Augustine in 1835, while the community was retiring for the night, Sor Patrocinio entered into an admirable ecstasy. According to the testimony of Mother Pilar, who was present and managed to get her to tell the content by forcing her to speak, it was a very mysterious vision. The ecstasy lasted from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. During this time, Sister Patrocinio was as if out of herself. At times, her face would light up, and she showed great joy. Other times, she seemed to listen with extraordinary attention and said only a few words. The vision that Sor Patrocinio described was of extraordinary symbolic complexity. She saw the Queen of Heaven, seated with the Divine Son in her arms, depicted as a sleeping child. Surrounded by 4 doctors of the Church and by many other saints. Before this celestial assembly, there were 2 lions. A first lion, marked by a cross on its forehead, appeared strangely immobilized. Sister Patrocinio described it as unable to move, able to barely wag its tail or a paw, but forced to remain motionless despite visible efforts. The second lion manifested a disturbing metamorphosis. It was transforming into a serpent. The vision, however, revealed a crucial element. When the lion marked by the cross was encouraged, or fed, to turn its gaze toward the child Jesus in the arms of the Virgin, a change occurred. The paralyzed lion showed signs of awakening. It gained new vigor and fought with more strength. The culmination of the vision occurred when the Virgin Mary placed the child directly on the back of the lion of the cross. At that moment, victory took place. The 2 saints who were behind the lion, one of whom also had a cross, joined the fight, and everything was transformed into joy and praise to God. In a particular moment of the ecstasy, Sister Patrocinio exclaimed with clarity, "It means that the prayers of the faithful feed the lion." This exclamation provides the fundamental interpretative key of the entire vision. The lion with the cross, symbol of the Church or its shepherd, although initially paralyzed, is revitalized by the prayers of the people of God. Only when it is fed by this current of intercession, and only by keeping its gaze fixed on Christ, can it awaken from torpor and victoriously face the adverse forces. Now, let's take a temporal leap to our days. On May 8, 2025, the conclave elected a new pontiff, who chose to call himself Leo XIV. This date is not casual. It coincides with the feast of the Virgin Mary of Pompeii. A day of intense Marian devotion, but also with the anniversary of the first apparition of Saint Michael the Archangel on Gargano, dating back to 490 AD. An even more surprising detail. The new pope comes from the Augustinian order, just like the saint on whose feast day, Sister Patrocinio had her prophetic vision of the lions. The symbolic connections multiply. The name Leo directly recalls the vision of the two lions. The Augustinian formation of the pontiff refers to the day of Saint Augustine on which the ecstasy occurred. The date of the election unites Marian devotion and the cult of the Archangel Michael, exactly as in the apparition received by Sister Patrocinio in 1831. The choice of the name Leo acquires further depth if we consider the figure of Leo XIII, pontiff of the late 19th century. In 1884, Leo XIII described having seen demonic hordes emerging from the abyss to attack the church, reduced to a state of extreme vulnerability. In the vision, the salvific intervention of Saint Michael the Archangel was not immediate, but would have come only when the faithful would have intensified their prayers to the Archangel. In response to this mystical experience, Leo XIII composed the famous prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel, recited for generations, at the end of every Eucharistic celebration. This prayer contains illuminating passages on the nature of the perceived threat. It speaks of cunning enemies who have placed sacrilegious hands on the treasures of the Church. Erecting a throne of abomination, where truth should shine, with the intent to strike the shepherd to scatter the flock. In this context, the choice of the name Leo by the new pontiff, although officially motivated by a reference to Rerum Novarum, seems in reality to hold a much deeper meaning. The great spiritual battle, prefigured both in the prophetic vision of Sor Patrocinio and in the famous one of Leo XIII. The convergence of these elements leads us to a surprising conclusion. The vision of Sister Patrocinio of the lion marked by the cross, initially paralyzed, but then awakened by the prayers of the faithful, could be a prophetic image of the current pontificate. As in the mystical vision, today too the Pope, the lion with the cross, needs the spiritual support of the people of God, that is ours, to face the challenges of our time. In light of this extraordinary prophecy, share in the comments your personal prayer to support Pope Leo XIV in this crucial time, so that together we can transform everything into joy and praise to God. On the very day of the election, Pedro Regis, the seer of Anguera, reported a message from the Virgin Mary that, among other things, specifically urged to pray for Pope Leo XIV. This call to prayer resonates as an echo of the words of Sister Patrocinio during her ecstasy. The lion with the cross needs to be fed by the prayers of the faithful. If you want to know the complete message given by Our Lady of Anguera to Pedro Regis on May 8th, and the story of the first apparition of Saint Michael on Mount Gargano, click the video that has appeared on your screen. May God always illuminate your path. See you in the next video.